Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is really exciting. We got a real treat for you all tonight. One of the most respectful men in school in our town right now. Our superintendent, Mr. Robert Tremblay, is here right now. How are you?
RJ, how are you?
I'm very excited for you to be here. I'm so glad that you actually took time out of your busy day to come here and support good old RJ.
Absolutely.
I'm a Memorial graduate.
We go back a lot of years together.
Yeah, I'm a Memorial graduate. I'm sure you have many memories of me, right?
I do, yeah, very much
Fantastic. Okay. Let's dive right into this right now.
You got it.
Brand new exciting thing going on at the high school.
Yes.
Pathways. What is that?
Not so brand new now. It's been around for a couple of years, but it's exciting. It is an exciting program. Pathways is a program that serves some of our students where a traditional classroom environment doesn't work for them. Mm-hmm. So we have some of our kids that are taking their courses online, and they have some actual classroom face-to-face with an instructor. These are all certified teachers they work with, but really it's intended for students that might be at risk of dropping out of high school.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Now, up to this point, did these kids have anywhere to go, or would they just sit in a normal classroom and be, quote, set up to fail?
Yeah, well, set up to fail, I don't know if I'd say it quite that way, but maybe the structure, an 82-minute block, for example, in the block schedule was just too long for them to hold their attention.
I'll be asking about that in a little bit later.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. But it's an opportunity for them to learn in a different way. So, if the current model isn't working and there's no alternative, the fear is that, or the risk is that students will drop out of school. And we
don't want that happening.
We don't want that happening. We know that what the unemployment looks like and the your employability without having a high school degree is really compromised. So it's important that you have a high school diploma in your hand when you go to apply for a job, if not a college education.
Fantastic. I mean, it always looks better. A high school diploma always looks way better than a GED on a job application. On a college resume, it always looks so much better, and it just states so much more that you're actually able to hang in there and go throughout the ride of high school and actually finish it like a successful student.
That's right. And, just to add another point to that, if for anybody who might be watching who decided to drop out, in that case, a GED is better than not doing anything. So a high school diploma certainly is better than a GED, but a GED is better than not having an education. A stamp of approval of completing secondary school. So
now, what's a day like for a Pathways student? What's their daily routine like?
So they'll come into their school day, traditional school day. They'll follow the same start and end time of the traditional high school schedule, and they would come in and have some opportunity to find out about what's happening in the world, sort of a social media, kind of what's in the front page of the paper.
Like current event stuff?
Current events.
Well, that's fun.
Which is great because it's really engaging.
I love current events. I love watching the Daily Show and seeing what's going on in the world and everything.
That's right. It's all current events because that's engaging. So the first thing you do is you engage kids in learning. And
that's a fantastic idea.
If you do it right, they don't even know they're learning, right?
That's a fantastic idea. Yeah. We just, in my chemistry class right now, we're just going through information. Sometimes my mind collects butterflies and I lose interest sometimes. If someone actually engages me like that.
I hope you don't lose interest tonight while we're talking here.
Oh, no. This is very entertaining. I love hearing about school. Right. School is my life.
Just making sure.
School is my life. I want to hear about this stuff. But if a teacher was actually nice enough to engage students before going off and teaching, that might actually get their focus point to focus on something besides just walking in and going, okay, do this worksheet, let's go.
That's right. And hopefully we're moving away from that anyway.
I really hope so.
People realize
that. I think students will be so much more successful with that kind of setup than traditional, okay, we're going to take notes right on the chalkboard and everything.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to do a worksheet, more notes, tests, that gets wearing on some students after a while.
Those days are over. The lecture formats, it's got to be project-based, kids learning, interacting with each other.
The whole world, from by the time people like Al Craig went to school, did a whole 360 because now kids are actually interactive in their cell phones, on the computer, and sometimes that traditional setup does not work for a lot of kids.
That's right. You're absolutely right. It's become global. The world has become a smaller place overall, how we communicate with each other, how we educate our kids.
We always have to make sure that we keep up with those current trends so we can educate the kids for the best, and that's always something very important, I would think you'd say.
I couldn't have said it better myself, RJ.
All right, so we go into classroom and they talk about current events things.
By the way, let me just interrupt you. This is fantastic that you're having a show. And
really?
You used to be 5 years old, and then now you're all grown up. You have a show. You're wearing a tie. I'm not even wearing a tie today.
I love it. I took the special occasion to go out, buy a black slim Calvin Klein tie.
Nice.
To make sure I look professional for you.
And you do.
I thank you. I think I tried really hard today, and then I see you come in. dressed as a normal person who I wouldn't even recognize on the street. Jeans. I love this side of you. I love the laid back,
it's my
casual
camouflage,
side.
my street
I
camouflage.
love it. It doesn't. You at school committee, tie, black shoes with tassels on them and everything. You're very professional there. I love this laid back idea about you.
Well, I knew you'd be a good. I had a chance to see your shows.
Right.
Before I came in, I did a little homework.
Yeah,
So
you needed me to show what you were coming into.
I need to know what I was coming into. So I said, I'm gonna just be relaxed. And then lo and behold, look at you, all dressed up. But I'm very proud of you
Thank
for
you.
having the show, for taking the time, and for inviting me on.
Thank you. I mean, you're the head of the school. It's a respect kind of thing to have you on. I respect you a lot. You do a very fantastic job of what you're doing.
Thanks, RJ.
And you're really doing a great job up there. So
Thanks.
I want people to know what you guys are up to and what's going on, because whatever you're doing, it's working apparently.
I appreciate that.
So current events. Next part of the day in Pathways, what happens?
Yeah, so half the class might be working on computers, as I mentioned before. Our Milford curriculum is actually in this system, so they're actually doing. It's not some kind of a curriculum package that we've purchased elsewhere. It's Milford's curriculum. They'll be doing that work. Meanwhile, there'll be some actual teacher-driven instruction happening in the other room, say, and then they'll swap places and they'll cover all the content areas. And as they have specials, they'll go on to those specials, music class, band class, or if
So these guys really do go to real classes.
There are real classes for
That's
them.
fantastic.
Yeah, it depends if they have those as electives, but they more or less follow the school day, and then they have an opportunity to learn in a different way.
I love that. I love that. This is a really great program that you guys set up.
This is just the beginning. This is just a program that really prevents those kids who are not high achieving, who are struggling really, to not drop out.
Is there more to come?
There's more to come, because what
Wow.
about the other kids who are excelling? Those kids who want to just jump out of, because the high school is not fast enough for them. They're not learning it. And you can be on your phone and multitask and on your computer and studying all this, listening to music. The brains of kids now are equipped in a different way than they were, when I was a kid or when Al Career was a kid.
Right.
So I think it's different. We have to find a way to challenge those kids that are high achieving. We have kids who are taking some of their courses through virtual high school. We have some kids who are taking their courses. We had one kid that came in, an 8th grader, who tested out of all of our high school math classes.
He what?
Out of all the high school math classes, AP all the way out. So we actually ended up having this.
Oh my
this
God.
particular student. It wasn't this year. Some years back, this particular student ended up taking his math classes through Brigham Young University in Salt Lake City, Utah, electronically.
That's really
so we
impressive.
find ways to challenge our kids and make sure that we're taking wherever a child is, wherever a student is, or a young adult is, that we challenge them where they are and they grow from there. So that's the challenge.
That's
for
really
us.
awesome. I guess the programs both ways for kids who are in danger of dropping out and kids who are just too smart to sit through a calculus class.
And you'd be surprised that the behaviors of those really bright kids can be just as difficult as the kids who are disengaged, because either
Their
way,
behavior?
Either way, they're disengaged.
Seriously?
As you mentioned, remember the whole idea about engaging kids, engaging
Right.
in learning. You can be disengaged if I learned this 3 years ago. I don't feel like doing it now, and I'll take the B in my class because I know it's not going to matter.
I guess that's true, because I never thought about it that way. I've always thought about the delinquents, as you may say,
Yeah.
boarding class, walking around the halls because they don't want to be in class.
Well, there's that too.
Because they can't understand what's going on in the class and it's too hard for them. I never looked at it the other way around, where it's kids are too smart that they don't want to be there. I never looked at it that way.
That's right. So you have to challenge to meet both those needs.
Do these kids ever take on internships, like go outside of the school to go do other things?
We do. We have a great program we have a partnership with Milford Regional Medical Center. It's called Project Search. It's a program that we put together a couple of years ago, and this is a program for our special needs population. These are high-functioning special needs students. They work through Jen Walsh's program, and they work at Milford Hospital. They are on site. They go to school hours, but they go, instead of coming to Milford High School, they go to Milford Hospital. And they go to Milford Hospital, and they're learning work skills that they can translate to a job one day, and we have an educator that we pay that works there. And that educator stays there and trains those kids, and they have work-study opportunities that way. That's just the beginning of what we're beginning to develop for our kids, for pathways, for careers. Milford is a great community to link the school and area businesses. So we've linked up students. I've linked up some students working in various industries in town, and we're trying now to formulate that or make it more formal, where students can be taking classes and then maybe having an internship or an externship experience in one business and have that count as course credit and have that supervised. We're trying to build that program.
I remember this one kid who was at school committee one time when Mr. DeVito and Miss Cohen was there.
He's in the Pathways program, yes.
Morgan, I think it was.
Yes.
He was there actually talking about wanting to get an internship at a barber shop. And I really see that as a positive thing because these kids who might be in danger of dropping out can really turn their life around.
That's right.
By obtaining these job skills so they can actually go out into the real world and do real life skills, which is really, really amazing thing that's going on there.
It's great, and BBT does a great job of that, Blackstone Valley Tech. But you know, the wait list is pretty long.
Here's my problem with BBT. Nowadays, they only accept the kids who they want to go on to college, who are A's and B's students, not students who may not want to take a traditional education, who just want to go through high school, do what they need to do, and leave and go get a job somewhere.
Yeah, and that's not the first time I've heard that concern. It's become more of a sort of a private or prep school feel, a precursor to college than a trade school, which is what I think most vocational schools are. You learn
That's
a
how it
skill.
was like back in the day. Like my father remembers it as kids who wouldn't necessarily do so good in the classroom going there to actually learn job skills, so therefore they can just leave and go find something to do outside school instead of wanting to go on to college because they had no interest in that.
But to the school's credit, they built a robust program that has high standards. So what happens is you build it, kids know that it's engaging. I'm going to spend a week in my class learning this trade. I'm going to spend a week, in school, and it's engaging. It's motivating. It's hands-on, so they apply to go. And now what happens is because the supply of students with certain skill sets outweighs the space availability. It's a long wait list, about 800 kids for 350 spots or so.
You know, it's a great school. Not as good as middle of high school, but it's a great school. But that's the one problem with it. They only accept high-scoring children who do good on MCAS, who are perfect in the classroom, who gets all A's and B's all the time. They don't accept those kids who just want to go there to learn that job, so they can leave and go take those skills that they learned and apply them into the real world, which I think is what a lot of kids really need.
And you're very astute. You recognize that because that's just the market we're trying to tackle in Milford, is to say how can we better serve those kids.
This program is really, really.
Maybe you ought to be superintendent. I can come back there and work behind the desk.
No, we wouldn't. You can't stoop that low.
You're
too respected. We're not going to put you behind the desk.
It's a lot of work to be a news show anchor type. What do you call yourself?
A host?
Oh, you're a host.
I'm a host.
Of course, you're a host.
What is that supposed to mean?
No. I'm just asking you.
Yeah, I'm a host. I'm the host of the show.
You are the host of the show.
I guess that's my title. I haven't really thought about this.
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay.
Host works. That's very fitting.
Thank you. All right. Tragedy has happened. We've seen a lot of gun violence, whether it's going to the movies and being shot at, between the tragedies of Newtown, Connecticut, and the scary bombings in Boston. How has school security changed lately?
Yeah, well, Newtown, even Columbine some years back changed it. I think Columbine was the real change agent for how we deal with security in school. It's for every parent, when they drop their kids off or they get on a bus and they send their kids to school, every parent wants to know that their kids are safe. They want to know that their kids are going to school to learn, but that's almost secondary to know that their kids are in a place that's going to be safe. I mean, this is your family. These are your children. You're going to leave them someplace for 6-7 hours unattended by you. You want to
make sure they're safe.
That's right. So I think that concern very, very seriously. So all of our schools are locked. Milford High School has 80-plus doors, all of which are locked.
Now, I've heard rumors that school was designed to be an open campus for kids to just walk in and out of all the time.
Yeah, and most schools were. Most schools were. People didn't conceive of the stupidity of people coming in and wanting to take on a school and kill innocent people to prove some point.
That idea was never
unfathomable.
I don't think people had that ideas back in the 70s when the school was being built. People never had those fear of that something like that would happen.
Of course not.
It's a little small Milford town, probably like 15,000 plus people back in the 70s. I'm just making that figure up out of nowhere, but I'm sure they never had that worry back then as they do now.
You're right. It's our obligation to keep it tight. So at all of our schools, the doors are locked. You're buzzed into the school. There's like a kiosk there. It's called Lobby Guard. You have to swipe if you're a visitor coming into our school, you'd better have a reason to be there. We love families. We love parents. We wouldn't have the kids. We wouldn't be in business if we didn't have kids to serve.
Of course.
But at the same time, if someone's coming into our school, they need to have a purpose.
That really makes a lot of sense.
All of our secretaries have rosters. If there's a meeting set up during that day, if I'm coming in to meet as a parent with my child's teacher, then that should have been prearranged. It's not a drop-in. And then that should be on a roster. And we have that tracking. We also have the lobby guard, as I mentioned, where you slide your ID. That purpose, what that does, the lobby guard system does a scan in 50 states to make sure that there's not a predator on the premises.
Really?
And if there is a predator on the premises, it immediately sends an alert to the principal, to our school resource officers in the district, which we have 2 full-time. We have a great partnership with the police department. We have 2 dedicated
You and Tom
full-time.
O'Loughlin are really, really close, I hear.
We're tight. We're tight, and especially after Newtown.
You
we
were
came
on the
together.
phone within like the hour after it happened, pretty much.
Yeah, we had a meeting the day later. We were getting the whole team, all the principals on a Sunday came in, and we came up with a game plan.
I love the partnership that you guys have. That really makes parents probably very pleased that they know this school is definitely a safe place to go. These kids are going to be safe here. Nothing bad is probably going to happen.
No, and the thing is, you asked Tom O'Loughlin the same question. You'll never stop the bad guy. Look at what happened at the Boston Marathon.
Right.
You're never going to stop bad people from doing evil things, but the more controls you can have in place to manage that, God forbid it should ever happen, the better off you're going to be. So that's just the beginning of what we've done for school safety. We have panic buttons installed in the schools, so we have a direct line. We have radios that's a direct line to the police, not only like instead of calling 911 on your cell phone, which brings you to the state police. Now you can actually have a radio and you're calling the police dispatch. Every cruiser in the area will hear.
Really?
When we have these, we have 29 of these radios throughout the school district. We're equipped.
Wow.
I'm not saying bring on a challenge. But I'm saying that
Don't send out that message. I don't think people will be very
wood.
happy at
But I'm
that.
saying that the Milford schools have taken the role of safety and security in our schools very seriously. And we continue to do that. It's difficult. I can't, if I leave my keys in my car or at my house and I have to get to the school, I had a buzz in the front door, just like everybody else.
I'm sure they won't hassle you like everyone else would, but
No, they don't have to swipe my ID when I go in. They know who I am
Right.
when I get there. But I still have to buzz the door to get in. It's for everybody. The
now
rules apply to everybody.
after Newtown happened, did anything change? Because one thing that I really remember was that at the high school, right after Newtown, the side C-wing door that I would come through every single day, I would park my car right outside the C-wing, right the level up by Mr. Pinto's room, his back door. And I would cross down the crosswalk and go to that side C-wing door. I remember the day after Connecticut happened, there was the security guard standing right there telling us, this door will be no longer open after tomorrow.
That's right.
That didn't really last long, but that happened. Has anything major happened between, I don't know, September and Newtown?
September in Newtown, what do you mean major that's happened? Or you mean
Like-
from Newtown to now? Or
From the beginning of the year
Yeah,
to now, after Newtown happened, because Newtown really opened everyone's eyes.
that's right.
Now, did anything change within the school districts on how you guys handled the security inside the school?
Well, besides what I mentioned about we installed panic buttons, we added the radios as ways to control that. But we also, changed the accessibility to the school, needing IDs. The whole thing I mentioned about signing in when you come into the school for a meeting, it's going to be prearranged.
Right.
At the high school, for example, anyone who has a meeting with me or any office in the high school, they're personally escorted by one of our 5 security staff that we have at the high school.
You guys really do good with security. This was really amazing. I talked to Rob all the time, the executive director here.
Yes.
And when they still had their playback system set up at Milford High School, Rob and Dan would always get hassled, let's say, when they want to come in and go to that programming equipment. I don't know why, but you guys really took on that responsibility seriously to make sure that no one's coming into the school who shouldn't be there.
I think everybody did it. I think every school district, Newtown, Columbine was a marked, point in time where we had to take stock of how do we do business. Newtown, it was even closer to home. It's down the road. It's a couple of hours away from us, and everybody thinking, and a little panicked, and rightfully so, because we need to make sure that we're.
I mean, you got to make sure that if something like that happens, everyone right now is safe.
That's right.
I'm sure, I remember being in school that day and my phone going off crazy with CNN alerts telling me what was going on.
Oh, yeah.
And the atmosphere, I think that day kind of changed a little bit from when I walked in.
And RJ, you'll never forget, like people who are older than you will remember certain points in their life when, like the Space Shuttle Challenger with Krista McAuliffe, when that exploded, and certainly before me when John F. Kennedy was assassinated. People have certain marks in their life that they'll never forget what they were doing. September 11th.
Right. That was my first day at kindergarten.
Right. September 11th was your first day of kindergarten. September 11th was my first day as principal while you were coming to the kindergarten.
Your first day as principal?
As principal, yeah. September 1st, 2011.
That's
2001,
wow.
rather. We had that in common. I had worked a few years prior at Memorial School, but it's my first year as principal.
That date.
And you'll never forget what you're doing that day. You'll never forget what it was, and for the rest of your life. And that'll be the same. When you watched or we heard about Newtown, I'll never forget where I was in my office watching it on a computer screen, CNN breaking news.
Yeah.
September 11th, same situation. And there'll be those moments, and hopefully there'll be few of them in life, but Boston Marathon, another one.
Yeah.
You'll never forget what you were doing that day when it happened.
I remember the first message that I saw. It was one of my friends, one of my mother's friends, Barbara, posted bomb or explosion or something.
On the marathon day?
Right on Facebook. And I had no clue what she was talking about. So I just turned on the TV, and there I saw it clear as day. Smoke all filled up in Boston. It was horrifying.
It was a terrible day.
Hopefully now, after these tragic events had just happened one after another, we had the movie theater shootings, we had Newtown, then we had the bombings. Hopefully we can notice, okay, there's something wrong here. There's too much violence going on.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can see what's going on and something can actually change for the safety of our students and for everyone else around.
Yeah, it's a scary time. It makes you wonder, should I leave my house? And I think that's the whole point of what terrorism is. It forces you to live in fear. And you know what? I just don't think it's going to affect us in that way, or at least the vast majority of us. You're going to see more runners next year than ever at Boston Marathon.
Of course.
Because people are going to say, you know what? We're not going to be victims. We're not going to be victims.
People are very strong in the city of Boston. They're just going to roll right on and just get bigger, better, bigger, and stronger.
We have it hanging in my office, Boston Strong.
It's very, very supportive. All right. Fun's going on in Woodland right now. What's going on with that rebuilding progress? Because I remember going to Woodland, and I thought it was the funnest thing ever. I was little, 8-year-old RJ going to Woodland, thinking it was the funniest thing ever. Apparently, from what I remember, the school has, as I've been hearing, has crumbled a little bit. What happened with that?
Well, the school hasn't crumbled.
I hear about all these stories, whether it's school committee or you going on Al Carrera, about all these problems at Woodland. That being a little 8-year-old student, I don't remember much going on then.
You just deal with it because you went to the school and you find as much room as you can find in the school, but the school is cramped. It's too tight.
That's one of the things I remember. I remember being in 4th grade and 3rd grade, being in a split classroom. One teacher on one side and the other teacher on the other.
Right. It's still that way.
I never had a problem with it because I didn't know better. That's what I knew. And I guess Woodland needs an upgrade, very much so.
It does. We don't know what that upgrade will. In fact, I had a meeting just before I came here today about Woodland School, and we've been meeting on that school quite a bit. So we're looking to see whether or not we need a new school altogether, or a renovation, or an addition, some kind of combination. We need more space. In fact, we need twice as much more space as we have now.
I mean, how many people are attending Woodland right now?
Well, currently it's about just over 600 students, maybe 650, round numbers.
Somewhere around there. And how much space do we have? Like, let's say we didn't have 350. What would be the max capacity on that school for a classroom space? Because I guess you guys are really cramming students in there right now to make it work.
Yeah, I don't have the square footage per pupil, but we're at about half as much space as we need, based on the new codes there. So we have a building that's going to be, let's say, 70,000 square foot building. It needs to be about 140,000 square feet in order to accommodate the need. Particularly, that means moving grade 5, by the way. That's sort of the capstone project. We've done all these projects before. This sort of capstone project puts grade 5 at Woodland, so Woodland becomes an intermediate
You want 5th grade to go to Woodland?
That's the plan. Woodland serves
then
3, 4, and
Then
5.
what would Stacy be, 6th, 7th, and 8th?
Stacy School then becomes a true middle school. Because right now you have a 5, 6, 7 middle school, which is, it can happen, but it's not a typical traditional middle school. No. 5, 6, 7 is not a typical middle school. 6, 7, 8. Now, some school districts, what I went through for school was I had a K-6 school, I had a 7-8 junior high school, and a 9-12 high school. That's pretty common for some people. The junior high school model went away in exchange for the middle school model, which is grades 6, 7, and 8. And then 9-12 is a traditional high school model. So this kind of puts our schools K through 2, Memorial and Brookside. It makes them both really early childhood primary schools. 3 through 5, Woodland School, which is now sort of an upper elementary intermediate school, a 6, 7, 8 middle school, true middle school, and then a 9 through 12 high school, which takes middle school east offline.
Does it really?
Yes, in this proposal it will.
Now, you guys shook up principals over there after, I don't know, I think this was the first year Mr. Consiglio has been over at Woodland. Was this pre-planning for this to happen, or?
Yeah, well, what I always like to look at, RJ, is to say, what am I looking at over the next 5 years? And I know what we're going to do with Woodland School in some way. So I made the decision to move Mr. Consiglio to Woodland. He's doing a terrific job there. He's just
I remember him, whether it was for like half the year of 5th grade at Stacy, or whether it was at Woodland, Middle School East. And I loved him. And when I heard the plans of him moving to Woodland, I wasn't quite sure about that. Because I remember him, being a big, goofy guy, and sometimes a little bit, kind of attitude. And I wasn't sure if the kids would be able to adjust to this, but I guess kids are really having a lot of fun with him.
He's got young children about the age of Woodland School age kids, and he does a terrific job there. It's a great match for him. And Mrs. Angelini now, who I've assigned her to basically oversee all the middle schools, so she's overseeing grades 5 through 8.
That's another really concern that I had, that there would not be one solid principal at Middle East all the time. And I was kind of fearful of what might happen without a full-time principal there. We still have Mrs. Burns there, who's fantastic.
And that's important. You hit the nail on the head. You've got to have an assistant. You have to have an administrative presence every day, all the time.
But I wasn't really quite sure on the fact that we never had a full-time principal there, because the way I saw it was that Stacy's about 2 times bigger than Middle East. So most of her time would be stayed at Stacy. And she wouldn't be very much in the building at Middle East at all. Would you disagree with that, or?
I would disagree with that. Yeah, she's come up with a plan to get herself as visible and available as she can possibly be across 2 campuses, and oftentimes she'll walk across.
Really?
One school to the other. Oh yeah.
We'd see her in a little pantsuit running. Really?
Yeah, she moves quick.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's impressive.
She's done
So you guys really were able to successfully work out a plan to make this work, which I guess it has been.
It has been working, and you have to have the right players. You have to have the right people in the right places, and that's important. There's a book that you should read if you haven't read it. It's called Good to Great.
Good to Great?
Good to Great. It's for leaders in any kind of industry. It talks about how do you move an organization from good to great, and the whole premise behind it is it uses the sort of a metaphor of a bus, and it's getting the right people in the right seats on the bus. When you do that, it doesn't matter where you're going. You can drive the bus in any direction you want, as long as you have the right people in the right seats on the bus to get there. And that's important, and I believe the right people are in the right seats.
All right. A final topic for the day before we go on and play 5 questions. That's going to be a lot of fun, by the way.
Oh, boy.
You're excited for that, right? That's the staple of our show, 5 questions.
I saw part of that. I hope I can answer them all.
Let's hope for the best. Okay. Everyone's at the high school level is very concerned about this. Not a lot of students are very happy with this. What's going to happen? Hopefully you can change their attitudes on this.
With the schedule?
The schedule change. You hit it right on the nail. The schedule change.
Okay.
Everybody is not quite too sure if they're going to love this change or not.
What are they worried about?
One of the things that a lot of students like is number one, the 84-minute classes and the 4 classes a day. You get to have your year split up into 2 sections, and you're going to have to stay through 1 core class the whole year. And that's really supported when it comes to finals. You get to have 4 finals every semester. You have 4 finals one semester, and you have 4 finals another semester. Another thing that maybe, and hopefully you'll be able to shed some light on this to kind of turn their attitudes around, but another thing that they're really concerned about is homework. I like to think we have it easy at the high school because we only have 4 classes a day to worry about with homework. We're going to be jumping to 7 classes a day with homework. In my mind, that's doubling the homework load on the student. Let's start with the basics. Where did this schedule change idea come from? Has this been in the works for a while?
Well, the block schedule, there's some schools that still use it, where it's still in place, this 4x4 block schedule. But by and large, people have over time realized that for a kid to sit in a classroom, particularly if it's not an engaging classroom, for 84 minutes or 82 minutes. How long is your period? How long are your periods?
84.
84 minutes. Okay. It doesn't work. And even some of the teachers, if you talk to some of the teachers, they'll say, to teach a math class, if I'm teaching a debate in world history class, 84 minutes, you can make that work. Teaching a math concept, after 84 minutes, you're probably cooked, if not halfway through the class. Done for the day.
Say it.
But the other piece, the real motivation behind it was a lot of kids were making choices about which classes to take or not take, and they were very limited what they could do. If you were in a music program, for example, you may end up having to waive the opportunity for an AAP class. So this schedule opens the door to really making the education for a student more versatile. They can take more courses of interest, find out what they really want to zero in on, especially if they're college bound.
Right.
So you're right. I think we have to manage the homework piece. I think we have to look at that carefully. It's a very good point.
Because this is high school. We have to remember that kids have jobs. Kids have extracurricular activities that they're involved in. They have sports they play on. It's not like in middle school when you go home, have a little snack and whatever before you do homework, and then you just stay home the rest of the nights.
That's right.
High school kids have lives, they have licenses, they're traveling all around doing TV shows and going to play games out in Mansfield and Brookline and whatever.
Sure.
They may not have that much time to actually sit down for an hour or two and focus on homework at the end of the night.
It's got to be managed. I came from the high school I attended in New Hampshire. I had 7 classes. This is a very traditional schedule in this regard. The block schedule.
That's the word, traditional. It's very traditional. It's very middle schoolish. If I remember back to middle school in Stacy and middle school East, we had those 7 classes a day that rotated the whole time. This rotation that we have this year, I like it. I think it's a good idea with the rotation. You never have the same block first mod, especially with those kids who always tend to show up a little bit too late for the party.
Yeah, that's a problem too.
But
you're not one of those kids, are you?
What?
You're not one of those kids, are you?
Of course not.
Making sure.
No, you know if I want. If I was
Listen,
one of
this
those
is
kids.
the right schedule for the kids, even though they may have to work twice as hard in their mind. It's going to give them twice as many opportunities, and more contact hours. So every time I go to class to learn math, when you do the math of this at the end of the year, they'll spend considerable more time touching on that subject.
Really?
Yeah, than in the block.
And that's one of the things that I'm really concerned about, because when you have half the year with one class, I like that idea. Because when I have a chemistry class that I may not particularly like for any reason, I get to ditch that class halfway through the year. Which is what I like doing that. I like getting rid of the stuff I don't like.
Let's say you have a biology MCAS test and you take it the first semester, and the biology test is in the spring, and now you've forgotten everything you learned.
Right.
It doesn't work so well then. So having year long is sustainable. You can, take it in small pieces, you digest it, and you do it for the long haul.
Right. One of the problems that I remembered with kids who took a spring semester biology, they had to be wrapped up with everything before May. I was lucky enough to take it the first semester and be able to take it in February after the class ended. So therefore, I took the final. All the information was burned in my memory. I had success at it. Maybe the kids don't have success with it after the spring because they're not, fully done with the class. They don't have all the information they need. Has test scores at all been affected because of this schedule?
Well, we haven't made the change yet.
Okay.
You mean, well,
with the 4x4?
Yeah, we could do better in biology, for example. We could do better there, and we think that part of the problem is the disconnect from when the course ends to when the test is given. That people forget.
All right. So do you like this idea personally?
I do. I stand behind it.
Now, you really think that this is going to be good for the high school?
I do.
I'm glad you think that.
I do.
I'm not really too sure about it. I'm going to keep the best memory in there.
All right.
But I just don't want to be so outspoken because a lot of kids are really passionate about not liking the schedule, which I'm sure you heard because.
But they may not be liking it for the wrong reasons.
Maybe they just don't like it because they're set in their ways. I'm not sure.
People don't generally embrace change,
No one ever likes change. But I remember sitting through those assemblies where they were presenting us with this new schedule, and I'm sure you heard about this. The crowd had a reaction that wasn't quite supportive of the schedule. I'm sure you heard about that reaction. Oh, yeah. But if change is going to happen, people won't always be happy with change, and hopefully after a certain time, they'll be able to get adjusted with that change.
And we think this will make our kids more competitive for college, too.
Does it really?
Yeah. They'll have more courses on their transcripts. They'll have more opportunities to take classes that they're interested in, more electives.
One thing that I did notice when I was picking classes for next year was that the credits went up from 40 to 42, which I guess is a good thing for college because you get to earn more credits that way.
That's correct.
All right. I think we're ready to play this right now. I think we...
Tell me how this game works, as I don't
You've
know.
seen the show before.
Well, I just saw it.
5 questions. We're going to ask you 5 random questions. We're just going to see how you do. Just test your brain a little bit.
5 random questions.
They're not that hard.
You sure?
I'm positive.
All right.
Ready for this?
I'm
Right, it's
ready.
time for 5 questions. Okay. We always start with geography. I'm sure you know this by now. True or false? There is a Bob, Louisiana.
I'm going to say true.
That's correct. It's true.
See that?
It's true.
I love it.
You got a town named after you. Aren't you so special? They need to be in RJ, Massachusetts or something. Okay. Approve or disapprove? Movies in the classroom.
Disapprove.
I don't like that answer. I don't like that answer. Sorry, that's wrong. All right. This is a fun one. I think one of my crewies came up with this. It's a mug. It's a real mug.
Yep.
If I gently knock it onto that carpet, will it break?
No.
You don't think so?
Gently knock it under the carpet?
I'm just going to push it off my desk onto the carpet. Will it break?
No.
You're not sure?
No, I'm sure it's not going to break.
All right, let's fix the camera so we can make sure that we have this on record, okay?
Gently is the key word.
We're just gonna
Gently
give
on the, wait, hold on a minute. Before you do that, given what you're about to do, you're going to hit it on the floor. And if it's the floor over there, I'm going to say yes.
No, I'm just gonna
All right,
shove
just
it.
making sure
ready?
we're on the same page.
It's gonna be a nice, light shove. It's cool. It still works. You're correct. I thought that was a fun question.
That's a good question.
All right.
This is a little easier than I thought.
Okay, you're
He's going gentle on me.
You're going for 3-4 right now.
All right.
I love movies. Movies are one of my favorite things, as we might have already pointed out. Who is Zach Galifianakis' character name in Due Date?
His name is Ethan Tremblay.
Yes! Yes! Impressive. I didn't think you were going to know that.
What's my name? Although with a different inflection.
Just a different pronunciation.
That's right. Ethan Tremblay.
Tremblay.
I'm impressed that you know how to say Zach's last name. I couldn't say that.
Galifianakis?
Yeah, well,
How would you have said that? How did you think it used to be?
I don't know. I'd have to see. I just usually just say that guy that.
From The Hangover, that
The
dude. Yeah,
Hangover,
the scruffy beard,
Right.
Mexican Sigley, like yeah. All right.
Am I 4 for 4 on this?
You're 3 for 4.
3 for 4.
3 for 4. You don't like movies in the classroom.
Oh.
Sorry.
All right.
I gotta keep it honest. Okay. Finally, this is the last question. Then we can let you go. Okay. Honestly, anything wrong with kids these days?
With you? No.
That's correct. Fantastic. 4 out of 5. That's very impressive your first time around. Thank you for coming on. I really enjoyed
RJ,
this.
it's my pleasure.
I thought this was a lot of fun. We informed.
Me too.
I'm sure we informed a lot of people today about all the positive things that are going on throughout the school systems. I hope people are really going to like this. Thank you for coming on.
You're a great host, RJ.
Thank
Nice
you.
job.
That's it for tonight's show. We had a great time. We want to thank Mr. Tremblay for graciously taking time out of his busy day to stop by with us. He's very respected in town, and I love him for coming on. We'll be back in 2 weeks with an all-new episode, so stay tuned. We'll see you next time, guys. Bye.